What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I'm leaning back in my chair, sitting back, relaxing, because we're going to be doing UBRS for the last time. And that's right, if you guys didn't know, in 6.0 the dungeon's getting revamped, and the old dungeon is effectively going away. And so I wanted to do one last run of UBRS, because back before Big Dick, back before it's your boy Asmongold, back before I went to KT, I was just this little nub in 2006, and that's why I got my WoW hoodie on, just like I used to wear to high school and all that. And I was doing UBRS trying to get Valor gear. And so it kind of sucks to me, like leaving behind this, it was like my first raid instance to do, and so it's like really kind of weird that it's going to be gone. And I wanted to show the quartermaster here. If you guys didn't know, you used to get a little letter from him, and you used to be able to turn in the letter at General Drakkisath. There was like a little orb behind him, and that was what got you attuned to Blackwing Lair. And so back in the day, in like Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, whenever I'd do all of these different dungeons, I would always do runs for people through UBRS because nobody would ever be attuned. Now, in Warlords of Draenor, this is no longer going to be a portal. There's going to be two separate portals. There's going to be an LBRS, Lower Blackrock Spire portal, and an Upper Blackrock Spire portal. But now there's still the old one where you zone in and you have all these different mobs in here. And whenever you zoned in, you kind of always were wondering, if you're going to be able to actually kill all the bosses, because back then you guys might not really realize this, especially if you're a new player, but the game used to be there was like the chance of success in a lot of dungeons now is pretty high. Like chance of completing UBRS correctly was probably, I'd say, around 15 to 20%. And so it was really, really shitty. And so the first thing that you'd always do is that you'd have to go around, and this is actually still going to be going on in the new UBRS, is that you had to go around and kill all of these different guys, and each time you killed them, that like purged the rune. And what would always happen, because as I said, like back then, people just didn't understand the game like they do now. Those summoners, the one that I just killed there, they used to summon ads, and like nobody back then like knew how to interrupt. Like interrupt cost like a rage, and you have to go into Berserker stance for it. And so like interrupting a spell as a warrior was a real pain in the ass. And so because of that, nobody ever did it. And so you'd always have these summoners summoning extra Blackrock veterans or Blackhand veterans, whatever they are, and it was a real hassle. And then I remember waiting and seeing like I got into a group and two people in like full tier 2, and this is like, as I said, back then, like I was not like this amazing player back then. I was just kind of just your everyday retarded 16-year-old that played World of Warcraft. And so whenever I saw that, I was just like, fucking, oh my god, these guys are pretty much the greatest players in the game. And so whenever I saw it, I was like, oh, we're gonna get this done, no problem. And what I didn't realize is that everybody else in the entire group had pretty much full blues. And back then, blues, honestly, guys, you could have completed this place in blues, but you didn't really want to. And I remember those Dragonkin guys, they were walking around in the first room. Man, if you wiped on those, you knew that you were never going to kill this first boss. Like, it was just the worst. And so whenever you purge all the runes, as you see, the door opens, and that was a real cinematic event, guys. The door opening, that was like the pinnacle of WoW cinematic events. Then there's this guy here. This is the first boss, and you have to click on this little what is it? It's like an altar or like a tabernacle or something like that. And then you'd have to fight all of these different ads. And back before they changed it, you needed, I think, 2 or 3 people to all channel this the altar at the same time, or it wouldn't open it. And so it wouldn't, trigger this event. And so you'd always have people who are like, oh, come in and do my UBRS altar thing so they can solo the rest of the instance. That used to happen all the time. And like Wrath and Burning Crusade especially, because people would always want to come back here. And this was probably the most intense waiting event in the game here, because he slowly grows in size, and this lasts for, I don't even know how long. It lasts for at least a couple of minutes, and so not a couple of minutes, 30 seconds. And so you're just sitting here waiting with your full group, and everybody's talking about what to do, and it's just like the suspense of fighting this level 57 fire elemental was just the most realist shit in the game. Because for a lot of people who played, yeah, see, I'm asleep, that's what it did. Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. Like a lot of the people in the game back then, like they didn't really have I don't know, like it was just people just didn't really understand stuff. Like I can't stress that enough. Like well, most people didn't know what hit rating was. Like nobody knew what their stat priorities were except for like maybe like 100 people in the entire world. And like this was a lot of people's first introduction to rating. And so there's the old tome. You used to be able to get those if you guys didn't know about that. You used to not actually have the your best levels of your spell. You used to have different levels of your spells, and so like there was like a flash of light rank like 1 to like 50 or something like or like 10 or something like that. And so you'd only be able to get rank 10 from this special boss somewhere, and so you either have to buy it or do the run yourself to even get the highest level of the spell. Now this is like this little orb. I remember never really knowing how that worked. And this was the old Leroy Jenkins. Like before there was Swifty, before there was like really trolling or anything like that. There was Leroy Jenkins. And if you guys, I it's funny that I'm actually even going to explain this. Is that a guy? They were all like kind of grouped up like right before we're going into this room, like doing a strategy and this guy apparently comes back from AFK, and he aggroes like all these different whelps, and he pretty much wipes his entire group and makes everybody really mad. And back then, like as I said before, like the idea of like WoW humor wasn't really very thought out, and so literally running around and wiping a group and having them get mad was the pinnacle of comedy in the Warcraft universe. And so I don't think that I still have the Leroy Jenkins file like saved onto my old like 2004 HP computer, and I think it was like a Google video. If you guys remember how long Google video lasted, that was about I don't know 15 minutes. And so like you used to be able to get an achievement. I guess you still can if you're doing this today because I'll be releasing this on the last day. If you kill, I think it's like 50 or 100 of these whelps within a certain amount of time, you get the title Jenkins, and that was probably one of the first titles that was like the first time that they really started implementing titles into the game as something that mattered. Like before then, like titles were just kind of like this thing that you had over your head. Nobody really gave a shit too much, but they just kind of you really only had like a few titles in the game. You had like your PvP title, so that was like Grand Marshal, High Warlord, Knight, Sergeant, whatever. And then there was also like Scarab Lord and maybe a couple of others, but honestly that was pretty much it. And so really all you had was just like these few little titles. And this guy right here, Goraluk Anvilcrack, if you were a warrior, you always wanted your group to kill him, but your group would never want to go kill him because it was just kind of a pain in the ass to do it. And like back then, as I said before, like people were clueless, and so he used to drop blacksmithing patterns. That's why warriors would want to kill him, and obviously because of that belt right there. That belt was really good, and so people would always want to kill him, but the groups would never want to. Like you'd always get mad. You always want your group to do it because like somebody would end up aggroing half this entire room, and it was just always. It was always a clusterfuck. Like aggroing this room and doing this room was just always such a fucking headache. And like whenever you didn't have to kill that guy, you usually pulled that group, the second entrance, just to save some time. And yeah, there were the knockbacks, and it was just like a huge, huge headache. And so, man, this was like, I don't know, it's weird going back and doing this because I think about it, it's like tomorrow is going to be the last day, or today, I guess, whenever I release this video. It's going to be the last day that I can ever do this dungeon, after 6, 7, the fuck am I thinking, 8 years. 8 years, this dungeon. Like, it kind of sucks. I don't really like the fact that they get rid of dungeons. I wish that they would add in like a legacy option. The same with like Scarlet Monastery. This bothered me too, and maybe they might do that in the future. I don't really see why they don't, and especially with like Old Nax, that's another one. Like I think a lot of people would love to go back and like relive that, in the same way that they did. I don't know, almost 10 years ago, and so. I don't know. Like we'll see what happens, especially with like the whole time walking thing and whatever else. So this is like Rend Blackhand, and before in WoD there's gonna be Warlord Zayla and Commander Tharbek or something like that. But before then there was Lord Victor Nefarious, and if it wasn't obvious to anybody, Lord Victor Nefarious was Nefarian, but disguised as like his human form, and Rend Blackhand is kind of like his sergeant or whatever, and so. Like he's sending waves of these chromatic dragonflight guys because you can kind of equate Nefarian, I guess, like in a way to like Hitler, because he tried to make like this like ultimate dragon race, I guess you could say. And so yeah, there they are. I zoomed in a little bit. The textures were not as good back then, and honestly, like back then, these things looked awesome, and so people were really thrilled. And after you kill a certain amount of waves, this is going to be pretty much the same thing as it is in live and in Warlords of Draenor. Is it Nefarian, or yeah, Nefarious is going to send Rend down here, and he's going to fight you. And he's actually going to be riding a very special Drake. This Drake is Glythe, and it's the only model in the game that shares the same model with the Ultraxian Drake, the Experiment 12B. And so that's a pretty cool little thing. And so you can see Rend Blackhand in just a minute here, like running right across those little what are those? Those bars behind there, and you'll see him get on his mount and do all that stuff. And I think that you can get the transmog that Nefarian has there, but I'm not entirely sure about some of the items, some of the armor items. But I know the weapon is the Lorthramar Theron II or something like that, and that's from Nefarian. The helmet is the Crown of Flame, and it also drops for a cloth version from BRD, the Sulfuron guy. And it also drops from Ragnaros as a male version, but there is no plate version. It is there. See, there he is going across trying to be sneaky, and that's when he gets on his mount. And there used to be a bug where people would kill Glythe too fast, and Rend would never actually get off Glythe, and so you'd just have to like wipe the group or wipe the run, and now they changed it, and so they made it so that wasn't the case. And Rend used to drop a number of really cool items. Like he dropped that helmet there, and it's like an eye patch, and every rogue would want that. Even hunters wanted that. Like everybody wanted that. It wasn't even because it was like really all that good. Actually, it was good, but I mean that wasn't really the main reason. They just wanted it to look cool, because back then you guys got to remember, like they didn't really have transmog. That was just like you. If you had shitty gear, you probably looked like an idiot, and so people saw that eye patch and they're like, hey, this is my chance to not look like an idiot. And so over here, like there's this little thing, and you guys are going to see how this ties in Warlords of Draenor with this little what is he? A little whelpling, Aubie. And I think there used to be a quest for him or something like that, and he was very injured, and you pretty much just saved him because Nefarian was like torturing all of the little baby dragon whelplings, and so you're pretty much saving like the little baby here from getting tortured from the Blackrock orcs. And so I never really read through this, but I know that there's a tie-in to this to Aubie, because he's going to come in and help you in Warlords of Draenor during the fight that I just did, the WoD version of it. And so I think that was pretty cool. And so you get to have this little conversation with him. And I do think that there was a quest associated with him, but I just don't really remember. And yeah, there's nothing really happens if you talk to him again. And so yeah, it's like, I mean, like I've had everything happen. Like whenever people go over there to talk to him, I remember people would fall off the edge. And it's like back then, and nobody know how to get back to the instance, and it was just like, oh my god, it was just the worst. And here you have like 2 ways to go, and we always want to, like, the first time I was ever here, I was like, I always wanted to go into this portal, and I'm very glad that my group convinced me, like, what a fucking idiot I was to even want to do that, because this is the portal to Blackling Lair, and so I was just like this little noob in like half blues, and I want to go do a 40-man raid that people have already cleared Molten Core are doing. And so that was pretty cool, and this was another way. There's an instance within an instance. It's like an instance portal in BWL that's actually put into UBRS, and I thought that was really cool, because for the people that didn't have the attunement or whatever, you could just go ahead and go in that way, and so that was pretty nice instead of having to take somebody through the attunement. And here, this was like a pretty open room that I remember having everything pulled at the same time. And here I have 2 old screenshots that I found from my previous C folder. And the first one here is I took a screenshot of this guy, and he had a gray bow. And everybody used to be up against the edge there, and the reason for that is that if they weren't up against the edge, they would pretty much just aggro the boss, like for whatever reason, because you have to be right up against the edge unless you, I don't know, unless you're like a lot higher level. So at 60, it would definitely happen. And there was a picture of me, old Asmongold, 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, staring down the same motherfucker that I'm looking at today. And luckily, in Warlords of Draenor, they're gonna have a what's it called? Like kind of like a tie-in to this also, where you actually fight the son of the beast, and so you'd want to kill the beast. Obviously, people would just want to kill him for loot, and also he dropped whenever you skinned him, he dropped the pristine hide of the beast, and that was required for some of the blacksmithing recipes, and so people would always want to do that. And I remember like the first time I pulled him, and like I was just like, all right, and then he knocked me up like that. I was just like, what the fuck, like, and I was like, this is it, this is real raiding. Because I thought, getting knocked up in the air and, everything else, because, what the hell do I know? I'm just like some nub. And so I remember our tanks getting killed from falling damage and just everything else like that being feared. And then I think he put down like fire and people would stand in the fire. It was a real circus. And you could also get that dagger, which would increase your skinning profession, because you couldn't actually skin the beast. You had to have a certain skinning level that was even higher than your normal skinning level that was even available. It was like you had to have like 310 or 315 skinning level. And so that was like kind of a little cool thing that you had to do. So you had to have like a skill level on top of a skill level. And then you go across this bridge here. And I always thought this was pretty neat because you can look down and see like kind of where you are in terms of the entire instance. You look down and see, I guess, like the breadth of like where I don't know, like where you are. It seemed a lot more immersive. Like one thing I really like about these old dungeons, some of them, especially like Maradon, is they're very large. Like people didn't really complete all of them at the same time. It was very rare for that to happen, but you felt like you were really part of something larger. And whereas now it's kind of like a very streamlined experience. And I can see why they've done it, but I do kind of miss the old version. Now this is the last boss. This is General Drakkisath, and these two chromatic elite guards. What you used to have to do here is that you used to have a hunter attack both of those and then run away with aspect of the pack or of the cheetah with those aggroed onto him, and hopefully you would kill General Drakkisath by the time the hunter ran out of room to kite. And so like that was, I mean, like guys, just guess how much of a fucking headache that was. And General Drakkisath never really did a whole lot of stuff. There's the orb, by the way, right to the right of him. That was the orb that you had to click on to get your attunement quest and finish all of that. And so people would do runs for General Drakkisath all the time because he dropped a lot of really good gear, and he even dropped an epic weapon. That's what was that weapon? I think it was like the Black Blade of Shiraz or something like that. And it summoned a guy. I don't remember. It was like a little Sulfuron guy, like one of those little snake guys. And there he is. He's dead. I got him. Took him out. And let's see. I think he dropped something I actually wanted to hold on to. Yeah, I think it was like that cloak and the pattern, like in case the pattern got removed. And if you guys are worried about transmog items, a lot of similar transmog items are being added in Warlords of Draenor, and so like there's like an item that's the exact same as like the Draconian Deflector, which is a shield that he drops, and it's the same as like the Rend's weapons. Rend used to drop a pair of set weapons, and he could drop both of them, and so sometimes he could drop two at the same time, or both of them at the same time, which was like, that was just like somebody's fucking like early Christmas present or something like that. And so people were really happy about that. And I remember taking screenshots. I was looking, I couldn't find a screenshot of like my little group next to General Drakkisath, because this was like the first time that most people did this. This was the first real raid, or real real accomplishment that anybody's ever made in the game. Anybody had ever made in the game. And so like being able to kill this boss was like a huge, I guess, like validation for a lot of players that they were actually good at the game, or at least maybe not good, but that they were, this was like the first step in their journey of being like a good player in World of Warcraft. And so guys, if you're watching a video and you haven't done UBRS, maybe you might want to go through for nostalgia's sake, because it will be removed tomorrow, and so I am kind of bummed out about that, but that's just the way it goes. So anyway, I figured I'd make this video and just kind of show, like what it really was like, and reminiscing on the old times, and maybe one day they'll bring it back. But until then, we'll see. At least you can still get the transmog gear, and so that's cool. But anyway, that's pretty much all I've got. Thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.